I don't even know how to start. It's not even like, and I'm not even trying to be funny. I have never told anyone about what I went through in college. I never really, I don't think people even really know. And that's why it might seem like everything's happening, like all of a sudden, like I'm like, all of a sudden I'm just mad. And it's not that. This has been a build up. And that's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about it's not even, I don't even wanna say the root of the problem, but it plays a really big part. So, trigger warning, we are going to be talking about some things. And I think I put the trigger warning at the beginning of the video because I'm not gonna like risk saying anything that I can't like censor, you know? So, gosh, so let's go. I guess let's get into it. I'm gonna start with 12th grade because that's where I left off last time. And I have notes again to keep me from going off on a tangent or getting too caught up in what I'm saying. 12th grade, I think I mentioned I had a really rough time applying for colleges. My dad was sick. He was in the hospital for like a month. And the way that my parents' dynamic was that my mom couldn't necessarily help me like do that stuff. So I applied to a million colleges. I applied everywhere and I got in everywhere except for UGA. I applied early decision and I didn't get in. And I had a whole meltdown about it. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I locked myself in the bathroom and I was just like screaming, crying. That's another indication to me that I have and that I have had BPD. It was just a reaction that was just too over the top for what was happening. I feel like me making a catastrophe out of what was going on. But I applied to a lot of schools, and the school that I wanted to go to was Colorado State. I got in, but the money wasn't right. So I had to choose between Mount Holyoke, which is my mom's alma mater, and then Iowa State. And I didn't really want to go to either place. I mean, looking back, I would have definitely been okay at either place. But the visit to Mount Holyoke wasn't the way that it was supposed to be. And so I wasn't necessarily super excited to be there. And it didn't even matter because I ended up flipping a coin between the two of them. So it didn't matter. I was leaving it up to chance anyway because I wasn't going where I wanted to go. So, you know, so my dad and I flipped a coin. And then we chose the opposite of what the coin landed on. So if it landed on tails, we were choosing heads. And so I applied to Iowa State like last minute and I got in the next day and I also had a full ride. So why not? The only issue with that is that I never visited the campus. Money was just not right. So in hindsight, I feel like I would have been okay, but I did what I could with the knowledge that I had type situation. So going there, right? Drove up and I thought that I would be okay because I really wanted to go out of state. I was not trying to stay in Texas. So, you know, I was really, you know, wanting to go somewhere else. I thought that, I've been away for 3 weeks at a time from my family at college campuses because of TIP, like I'm gonna be fine. And that's so not what happened. I didn't have a roommate to begin with. I did and we had the same birthday and everything. We had planned everything out, how we were gonna decorate and whatever. And at the end, she didn't end up coming. So I was in my room alone for the first week or so, maybe. And then, of course, like, well, not of course, but that summer sucked. Anyway, the summer before going to college was a bummer anyway. I got into a car accident, going somewhere where I should have not even been at, just trying to do a little drive-by, whatever, and my ass, look, so my car was totaled, my first Mini was totaled, and then I just had no money. Like, my family didn't have enough money to like buy me the stuff that I needed for college, you know? Like, my grandmother bought me my bedding set, which was amazing. But that was pretty much the only thing I went there with. Could barely afford to buy the bed frame. So it was really hard watching my friends that summer and talk about all these things about their roommates and where they're going and how they're excited. And I think that's when the split definitely started. You know, that was the start of us not having too much in common anymore. So it was really hard to go anyway. You know, it was hard. There was all these things happening the summer leading up to it. You know, my high school boyfriend cheating on me, my dad having a pulmonary embolism, all of it. So the fall at ISU was okay in hindsight, but I was just really not having a good time. I missed my family. I just wasn't feeling the campus. I mean, it was beautiful, right? It was really pretty, but there weren't a whole lot of Black people. You know, it's Iowa, just a bunch of fucking corn. You know, my dad dropped me off, and once he left, I think I was kind of sad. I think I might have cried. I always cry the first few nights, but this was something that I continued to harp on, you know, like I really wanted to leave. Because it wasn't where I wanted to go anyway, you know, it wasn't where I wanted to go. So almost as soon as school started, I kind of decided, okay, I'm just gonna focus on my studies and then I'm gonna transfer, because this is not it, you know. So I had acquaintances, but I never had like real friends, you know. I have never had those real friends. So I called my mom, I think every day, multiple times a day. That was my friend. She was my friend. And she sent me this like Kroger brand cereal. It had like, I think it had like raisins and oats and granola, and it was amazing. It was the best cereal I'd ever had, and she would always send it to me, and it would be the highlight of my life. Like, ugh, my mom. I worked really hard on my studies. I finished the first semester with a 3.7 GPA, and it was hard because, like, us not having money, I really wanted to go home for Thanksgiving, but we just couldn't afford it. The only reason I was able to go was because I made a GoFundMe. It was really nice. People were really able to help out. So I was able to go home. And then when I left to go back from Thanksgiving, I just had a meltdown. I was just sobbing the whole time. I didn't want to go back. I was just like, just a couple more weeks till Christmas. Just a couple more weeks till Christmas and I go home. And so I was able to make it through that. Christmas was great. And then going back for Christmas was even harder than going back for Thanksgiving. The only difference was that the government had owed me some money, and my mom worked tirelessly to get that money for me. And so that money hit my account the beginning of January, and I said, fuck it. I was on the plane at Iowa, and I bought a plane ticket home. I dropped out my classes, very impulsive, and it was super impulsive. I had a really good semester set up for me. You know, I'd already had my classes. I had a job at the on-campus veterinary school of veterinary medicine. Like, it was something that was already set for me, and I just felt like I couldn't do it. So another event that led me to believe that I had borderline personality disorder. And so I was manic. I packed all my stuff. I shipped all my shit home. I took a cab. I had a job interview over the phone. It was so crazy. I was up on the 3rd floor and I dragged my shit in boxes because there was no elevator, grabbed my shit in boxes all the way down to the 1st floor and then put them in the cab and shipped them home. I did. And then I was on the way home and my parents were not happy. Not happy at all. Thought I was making the worst decision of my life. And I don't think that was the worst decision of my life. Not in the slightest. I was still kind of in my friend group. You know, again, the amount of things that we had in common was starting to decrease. And nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced outside of that private school bubble, you know? So I came back, I lived with my mom, and I took some classes at HCC so that I wouldn't get used to, you know, like not being in school. You know, I wanted to make sure that I was still using my brain a little bit. And I had a job at this vet clinic. I was hired on as kennel. And I ended up having a boyfriend who worked with me. We were coworkers, so that was fun. I turned him out. Okay. So I was his first. His family was kind of racist though. They were Hispanic, so I don't know that matters, but they were kind of the microaggressions, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff. And I had to buy a new car, and with the money that the government owed me, I was able to. I bought a little Nissan, and I did that for like a semester, and I had applied to UH main campus, got into the honors college, and as it turned out, my high school boyfriend at the time, I think we broke up by now, my high school boyfriend at the time had also decided to leave the school that he was at, so we both ended up back at UH. So we would hang out every so often just because we didn't really know anybody else. I mean, we weren't dating, but it was still just familiar, you know? And so eventually my mom and I, we moved to the house that she's in now. And I was living the rich bitch life for a minute. You know, I bought a lot of clothes, mostly clothes, shoes, gifts for my friends. I bought them for their birthdays. I kind of went all out. I just had never had money like this before. And that's how I ended up blowing through it so quickly. I'd never had money like this before, and I felt like there was so much I had to make up for that I wasn't able to have while I was at my private school. I was like, well, now I can buy this and this and this and designer this and da 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 da. And so that's what I was doing. Food, hell yeah, food, always. And I was still in the friend group, of course. It was a little better now that I was at UH, but that was not to last very long. The end of the semester, I had a biology project, I had a partner. So I went to the library with my partner who had her friend there, and we're gonna call her J. I don't know. We're gonna call her J, and I met her, and then through her, I met who I call my bad ex. It's just easier that way. I used to call him Satan, and I still do think he is Satan, but so this is the point in the video where I'm gonna give you the option to skip or you know, skip to the end. I will put another trigger warning here, but the rest of the video is gonna be me talking about the abuse I went through with him, all the things, our entire history. So that does include my assault. You are, like I said, if you want to skip this, you don't have to watch it. Like, of course, you know that. But I wanted to make sure there was like a definitive moment in the video where I'm able to say, like, you don't have to watch this if it makes you uncomfortable. And like I said, I'll put the trigger warnings up and everything. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm smiling, but I am nervous. So, like I said, I met him through my biology project partner because her friend was friends with him. So we were all in the library kind of at the same time. And I had been talking with Jay about, oversharing. That used to be my thing, oversharing. So I was telling her about the boy problems I was having. And in hindsight, I think that's what let him know I was vulnerable. He had on headphones, but that doesn't mean he was listening to music. They ended up, everybody at the table except for me and him ended up going to get food or something like that. And so that just kind of gave us the opportunity to start talking. We ended up finding out that we have the same birthday. We ended up finding out that we have the same music taste. We end up finding out the fact that we're both really fucking smart, what I'm majoring in, what he's majoring in. And so it was like that. And at the end of the night, after the project, he somehow swayed us into getting into his Mustang and just doing a quick little, fucking, what is it called? Joyride, because he had a Mustang. And so vroom, vroom, fast, like whatever. And we all ended up kind of spending the night at Jay's apartment on campus because it was late and I lived with my mom at the time. So I had a final the next morning. It just was easier for me to stay on campus and to go do my shit and then go home. So we all ended up staying, including him. And it was really weird because that night, I think I woke up in the middle of the night and he was working on work or whatever, but it was set up so that I was sleeping like on an air mattress or on the floor with this other girl and I was facing him, and I woke up in the middle of the night and he was looking at me like he was staring at me. But I don't think that like registered for me at the time because I was like half asleep. And at that moment, after that, he asked Jay for my Snapchat. We added each other and I spent the rest of the entire semester with him, which was not very long. It was November, early December. It was during finals. But it was enough time for things to like go bad. You know what I mean? I spent the rest of fall 2016 with him and Jay. They kind of, not my friend group, but it was more like I would hang out with her and alone, and then I would hang out with him alone. Even though he always made it clear that like he was interested in Jay, but but he kind of convinced me that he was interested in me also. So he was, and so we ended up being kind of like, so we ended up getting each other's Snapchats. We were in contact with each other. And he was like, hey, look, I'm at the library. Do you want to come to the library? And I was like, yeah, for sure. I'll come, we can study. And this is just me being nice. I was like, I'm getting a smoothie. Do you want one? And he was like, yeah, definitely. So I brought him a smoothie and we were studying, and he was like, you want to go back to my friend's apartment on campus apartment? We'll call him R. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So we hung out in his apartment. And we ended up hooking up, of course. And that kind of just became a thing. We kind of just became a thing. But it didn't take very long for him to like reel me in. Do you know what I mean? He was really nice. He was really sweet. He was polite. He, paid for everything if I didn't offer to pay. Like, it was just, he put on that good, the good guy act, the good guy act. And that went on for long enough time for me to be able to be like, oh, okay, well, he likes me. I already have low self-esteem. I'm already vulnerable. And, we're in the middle of a McDonald's drive-through line and he's like, oh, we're dating now. And I was just like, oh, okay. I wasn't sure to be like weirded out or to be like, oh, well, like he likes me, like he wants to be with me. Awesome. And so I chose the latter, of course. But, and then I went to his workhouse. He worked at a chemistry, whatever. He's a chemist, whatever. And his house was all the way out in fucking Springs. So I was driving out there probably every night. And he brought me there. I met his coworkers, where they all lived, because they live, like I said, they live in one house. And he started laying out my clothes for me. Like I remember I took a shower and I came out and he had all my clothes laid out for me. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And now I'm looking back, I was like, that's kind of fucking weird. But it would start to get to the point where if I disagreed with him or if I challenged him, you know, this is fall 2016, you know what I'm saying? This is the election, you know? So I made it very clear that I did not like our current newly appointed man. I did not like the fact that Trump won. And he was like, oh yeah, I didn't vote for him either, but you know, I was kind of in the middle, but you know, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I know that's a lie now, but it got to the point where if I started to challenge him on things, he would threaten his time with me, if that makes sense. So like he would always threaten our time together if I challenged him, if I didn't agree. And so that gave me so much anxiety. I was like, you know what? Then I just will agree. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to spend time with him. I'm like, okay, well, you know, fuck it. Like, not fuck it, but I gave too much of myself to him too early, I think. And that's like kind of how we ended up in that situation, you know? But over the break, we finished finals. Like I said, we're over Christmas break, and he was taking a class like on a mini semester. So he was like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this, blah, 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 blah. I was like, what class is he? He's like, history. I was like, I'll just do it for you. I can help you. And he was like, really, that'd be great if you could just help me through these few. And of course, I do the most for people I care about. Not just romantically either, friends too. But I completed the whole course, all the homework he had to do, because I had already taken the class. I already knew the answers. So he got 100 on all of them. And so I was like, well, you know, even if he kind of disagrees with, or even if he gets upset with me for disagreeing with him, you know, he's still really kind of nice. He's still nice, I thought, you know, he's smart, he is mature. You know, he was white, and at the time, that's what I wanted. I know. But he did start to get controlling really quickly. Like I said, if we ever disagreed, he would threaten our time together. Oh, well, we don't, I'm just not, he's like, I don't think we should hang out, blah, 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 blah. And then I would just be like, no, like, it's not that, like, it's fine. You know what? It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, you're right. And so that was kind of how it all ended up going. I met his mom over the break. He went to California for some of the winter break. And so, I met his mom. I drove him and her to the airport so they could go. And, he came back from Cali. School started. And I wanted to join a sorority. I was like, oh, like I really want to join a sorority. And Megan was like saying it out loud. He was like, oh no, you can't join a sorority. If you join a sorority, I won't date you. I'll break up with you. He was like, and I was just like, oh, okay. And so enough time had kind of passed, and we were already moving quickly, which was a red flag anyway. But sometimes those red flags can feel like butterflies. You know what I mean? You mistake them, and you ignore them. So, and so he said that I couldn't join the sorority. And I was just like, okay, sure. And it got to the point where he was starting to isolate me. Do you know what I mean? So so I couldn't really hang out with anyone but him. And if I tried to hang out with Jay, the girl I was now best friends with, he would try to keep me from hanging out with her. You know, if I had plans to do something before he would ask me to hang out, he would make me feel bad for having those plans, and then I just end up canceling the plans and hanging out with him instead. And so I decided to just kind of still look at the sororities because I want to join a sorority, and I was trying to get information. You know what I'm saying? The spring semester had started, the clubs and you know how they do the clubs and the sororities and all that stuff out. I wanted to, but I knew that if he found out that he'd probably not be very happy. So I remember I was getting the information and it kept me late at school on campus, and I was supposed to come over to his house, and he was like, oh, where are you? Why are you late? And I was like, oh, I just had to take care of something after class. So I lied. And he was like, no, like, are you looking into sororities? And I was like, I mean, kind of. And he was like, no, And I was like, well, I really want to, you know what I'm saying? And I was supposed to be on my way to his place. And so he was upset with me that I was late. So I was in my car trying to make it to his place. I'm like, no. It's okay. I'll think about not doing it. And he was like, no, like, it's fine. Like, we're going to break up if you do this. Like, I'm breaking up with you right now. And I was so anxious about it, you know, that I was like, no, you know what? Like, it's fine. I'll just not join the sorority. Like, it's okay. I'm already on the way to your house. Like, please don't tell me not to come. And he was trying to, you know, be controlling, you know? And so, I'm like, please, like, I promise, I'm telling you, I'm on my way. Like, I'm on my way, and he's angry now. So he's upset because I'm late, and he's upset that I'm trying to join his sorority, and I'm supposed to be meeting him at his job, and I'm running late, and he's wanting to break up with me. And I'm like, oh my God, please, no. And so I'm like, I won't join a sorority. Please, I'm coming. And so I finally get to his job. I'm literally speeding, trying to get there so that he's not upset with me. I arrive at his work. I'm like, I'm finally here. I go in for a hug, and he pulls me in, and he puts the knife to my throat, and he says all the different ways that he could cut me and cut me up, and different ways that how and where he could cut me. And then he was like, just kidding. And I was like, yo, what just happened? And he was like, I got us pizza. And I was like, I'm not hungry. And he was like, I got it for us. You should eat it. And I was like, okay. So I got a piece that I took 2 or 3 bites out of, and I was like, I'm not even hungry, bro. And so his work is finished. We go back to his place. I know, bro, I know. Stop. We go back to his place. And the next morning, he offers me a drawer at his house. And I was so excited, y'all. I was like, oh, wow, like, we're really about to, like, be something. And then the next day, he messaged me on Snapchat, and he says he wants to break up with me. And I was like, wow, that shit hurt a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, because you know, at the young, ripe age of 20 and 21, you know, I still didn't have very much self-esteem. I still, you know, everything had just already moved so fast with him. And then he was like, over Snapchat, like, it's done. And then, you know, a few days later, he's got a new girlfriend. And it comes to be the girl that I met one time around him, who he told me not to worry about. And now they're dating, and he's posting her everywhere, posting her on Facebook, posting her on Snapchat, posting her wherever her fucking face could be. And Not me though. He was never like that with me. He never showed me off. He would only show me affection if we were behind closed doors. Like if we were out in public, he would always try to make it known to some other girls that he was interested, or he was trying to talk to them, or, you know, it was just disrespectful, 100% disrespect. But with her, it was different. And I was so upset because I couldn't figure out what she had that I didn't have. Do you know what I mean? I was like, what about her is so different? And now I know that it's because he's racist. But at the time, I didn't know. I didn't know what. And so I internalized that, and it was hard for a minute. Yeah, it was hard for a minute. I got my ear pierced because I felt nothing, and I just wanted to feel something. And I was hanging out with Jay a lot. She was there for me at that time. I was hanging out with her and her family at their house, you know, but I was coming out of it. You know what I mean? I was coming out of the sadness. And of course, as soon as I start to get better, he contacts me, and I'm like, well, what happened to your girl? And he was like, well, we're not together anymore. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I don't have a place to stay over the summer. Like, I can't stay at the workhouse for whatever reason. And, you know, but he needed to be in Houston for work, if that makes sense. But he was spending time at his home, his family home in East, West Texas, whatever the fuck. And so I was like, okay, you don't have any money, like, I'll help you, you know, and I'll help you turned into feeding you every day, or feeding you every time you're in Houston. And I'll help you means paying for hotel rooms while you're here in Houston that we stay at, you know. And I could tell that his niceness was fake. Like, he had to really try to, like, be nice to me. Like, it was hard for him to treat me right. And I could tell, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't something that, it was there. And it's something that I was very much aware of and that I noticed. And so at the end of the summer, we had a fight, we had an argument about something. And I was like, fuck you, bro, I'm done with it. And I cut him off. And I got promoted at my job. I was a veterinary assistant now, working at a new clinic, not the one that I was at before. And I was working my way up and learning new skills. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm not kennel anymore. I'm almost a vet tech. You know what I'm saying? And so that brings us to the fall of 2017. And so, like I said, I have this amazing job now. I work as a vet assistant / reception front desk at the clinic I was at. Things were going good. I was going to the gym a lot. I was, you know, me and Jay were at the gym all the time. Like, we spent almost every day together, she and I. And so I was at a back to school event in the fall of 2017. And I was hanging out with her. It was a party or something like that. We was dancing, whatever, it's outside. And like a foam party, I think. But I was there, and he hits me up, of course. When I started doing good, he hits me up and he's like, hey, come over to my new place on campus. My friend R is here, which we ended up becoming a little trio. Kind of in the fall of 2016, early spring of 2017, we were hanging out a lot, the three of us. And so he's like, yeah, no, R is here, like, come over. So he was at his place, his apartment with R and then his roommate. And they're playing some kind of drinking game. They're getting drunk, like crazy. And he's like telling me how he has a girlfriend back home and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, good for you. Like, okay, you know, what am I supposed to say to that? And so R is really drunk or whatever. And he needs a ride back to his apartment. So my bad ex and I get into his car to drop off R. And then we come back to his apartment and I'm about to leave. And he's like, no, stay. And I was like, no, No, there's nothing good that could come out of me staying at all. And he was like, come on, it's late. It's like 1 or 2 a.m. Like, if you stay, I'll sleep on the couch. You can have the bed. And I was like, fine. So we get ready for bed. I'm in the room on the bed, in the bed, and he's on the sofa, supposed to be. Comes in, he's like, I'm just getting my phone charger. I was like, oh, okay. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because we ended up fucking. So like, not like, and it's just so weird because he had a girlfriend, so to speak, he says. And I remember on the way to take our home, he like pushed me up against the wall and he was trying to kiss me. And I was like, don't you have a girlfriend? And he was like, oh yeah. Okay. So we hook up and now we're back in touch. And this is the semester of Harvey, I think. And so, he goes to like store his car like on higher ground or something. So I follow him so I can take them back. And they, I think, get a different car. I'm honestly not really sure. I can't remember. I just remember having to go up to Spring. I think it was to get his car. No, that doesn't make sense because we had taken our home with it. So I can't remember. But for some reason, all 3 of us had to go up there, and the storm was starting to rain. It was like coming in. And so they go into his hometown in East or West Texas with his family. And then he comes back, and once again, it's like nothing changed. We are seeing each other, but he won't claim me. So again, he's isolating me. Spending most of my time with him. Needed me to be accessible at all times. Like, if I wasn't doing anything and he wasn't hanging out with me, but he asked me what I'm doing and I tell him I'm going somewhere or doing something with someone else, he's upset. And I'm like, well, I don't have to. Like, you're just... Anyway. So yes, it's me, him, and R back at it again. The trio. Mostly just him and me though, because that's what he wanted. Me, all the time, except never in public. And it turned out that I had a class with him for the fall of 2017. So Harvey's done, okay, we come back. I had organic chemistry lab with him on Fridays in like the afternoon to the evening. And we get in there and he's already trying to talk his shit to a girl in front of me about, how he's a chemist and, he's young and he's making moves and he's got a new Mustang and, all that bullshit. Trying to because that's how that's what he told me. You know what I'm saying? He's just that spiel, and it just became funny because I was like, spiel you give everybody, every other girl you want to fuck. Like, come on now. It just got funny to me, but it was still hurtful. You know what I'm saying? And I remember one specific incident where I had gone to the gym and I was there and I had done my legs and I was like literally tired. And he came in the middle and he was doing his exercises and I was doing legs and he was doing upper body. And he was like, you want to do a pull-up? And I was like, not really, no. I was like, I don't know how, I'm not strong enough. He was like, get up there. I was like, I don't want to. He was like, get up there. It's not hard, do it. And I was like, I don't want to. And he was like, fine, and he just walked away and pretended not to know me. So I was just standing there. And I was like, okay. So I finally did one and he was like, I finally jumped up there and he was like, see, it's not bad. And I was like, yeah, sure. But so I didn't want to. Like, he literally got mad at me for not wanting to do a pull-up and then decided not to talk to me until I did one. Like, okay. And I remember he wanted to go rock climbing afterwards, and I was already fatigued from the workout that I had done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had been there already much, much longer than he had. And so he goes first, and, he makes it like all the way to the top. And I was like, I've literally never done this before and my legs are fatigued. So, okay, I'll try. I'm trying and I just literally can't get up, y'all. Like, I can't get up on the rocks. And so he and the instructor are kind of like going at it because he's telling me to just do this and just do that. And she's like, well, wait a minute. Like, that's, you know, she's not going to do well with you yelling at her. And he's like, well, and he just continues to yell at me, like, just do this, just do that. You need to do this, you need to do that. And he's like, why can't you just do this and that? And I was just like, okay. And he decided, after him and the instructor had gotten into it for a little bit, he had decided to go get his shit in the fucking locker room and change. And when he was gone, she was like, are you okay? And I just broke down. Yeah, I broke down into tears because I wasn't okay. You know, he was comfortable enough to yell at me like that in the open world, and it was always twice as bad when we weren't there. You know, gaslighting, making me feel like I wasn't enough, constantly comparing me to other girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could see with just a little work, you could look like her. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing my best. You know what I'm saying? I don't have soft, flowy hair like how he wants. You know what I'm saying? I know he wants. And it wasn't me. But at the time, again, just giving more of myself to someone who didn't deserve it. And, you know, you get so caught up in the beginning, and he reeled me in with that nice guy shit, then made sure we got close enough to where he could break it off, but always come back. You know what I'm saying? And so she asked me if I'm okay. I'm not okay. I break down. She tells me that I need to go to like a therapist or tell somebody, and I'm like, no, it's fine. And you know, he comes back and we don't, and I like me and the instructor stop talking to each other, and he comes back and we leave, and he starts complaining about her. He's like, God, she was crazy, huh? And I was like, I kind of liked her. And it just kind of was always stuff like that. The little things that like add up, you know? And like, I really just I didn't love myself, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's also like, even the smartest minds can be tricked. You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't even just the way he was treating me, like the way he spoke to me. He would use the N-word all the time, and he's white, just mind you. And at the time, that was a really big thing for me, and I hated it. But I was too scared to bring it up because I knew that if I brought it up, he was not gonna want to see me, you know, because I was challenging him. And we just kind of ended up going to the library and being in the student center, and just those few places kind of became where we were. And besides his apartment, you know what I'm saying? And so I remember fall 2017 now, like I said, and I decided to try Rush again, because I'm like, fuck it, we're not together, and he says we're not together, so, you know, who the fuck is he to tell me what I can and can't do? But also, I still lied about it. I still was trying to do Rush on the low, still trying to not let him know. He came to me like at the student center and was like, what are you doing later? And I was like, oh, I don't know, I have to tutor this kid in English or whatever. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll hit you up later then. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I lied so I could stay late. I did my Rush rounds, you know, the rounds, all the sororities. And they gave us a Rush shirt, and it was cute. It was like lavender, I think, and it was given to all the girls who were rushing. And so I put that on while I was rushing. It was nice. We did the rounds, and then I take off the shirt, put it in my backpack, stuff it in my backpack, stuff it. That's important to remember. I stuffed it into my backpack in there, and I put on my work shirt again, And then he's like, hey, and I let him know that I'm done. He's like, hey, come over. We can do our organic chemistry lab shit together. And I was like, word, bet. So I go, I get my backpack and stuff. We go to the study room that's in his apartment, and we're doing our pre-lab or whatever. I'm like, oh, I forgot something in the car. So I go to the car, get what I forgot, and then I come back, and I immediately notice that my backpack looks different. And I look in, and my shirt is gone. And I just was like, And I didn't want to say anything right then, because then he would have known, that I had gone and done rush, and I didn't want him to know. So I didn't ask him about it until the next day over text. I said, hey, did you see a lilac or lavender shirt anywhere? I didn't say what it had on it, anything like that. And he said, no, I haven't. And I know that's a lie. I know that was a lie. It was not true. Because what did the shirt do? Get up and walk out of my backpack? And you're the only person in the room? I don't know what happened to the shirt. I don't know what he did with the shirt. I just know that he took it. And so at this point, it's like I'm not doing super well in school because I'm studying when he's studying, and I'm, having his study habits, and, his brain obviously different than mine. He can afford to study and do all that shit whenever he wants to, but I was taking hard classes, and I should have been spending way more time like in those classes and studying, but I wasn't, because I wanted to be available for him. I wanted to be accessible for him. And I would always, without fail, and he knew that I would always drop everything for him, always. And it was something that I really hated. I hated it. But the fear of not being able to like talk to him or be around him was enough to keep me from speaking up about certain things, and, speaking up and being like, I can't, I have homework. Like, I just wasn't, I was scared. It even happened to where, like, he was just never appreciative of anything that I did for him. I remember, like, I was getting off of work, and I worked all the way in the Memorial area, UH's 3rd Ward. It was rush hour. I was tired. I go to Whole Foods. I pick us up some dinner. It takes me a while to get home, but I finally get there. And the first thing he says to me is, why were you taking so long? I'm hungry. I've been hungry. And I was like, wow, okay. So I finally decide to, he's upset. He's like, what took you so long? And he's like, I've been hungry. And I was like, okay. So I finally decided to stand up for myself. And I was like, if you're just going to talk to me like that, then I'm just going to leave. He was like, okay, then you can leave. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave. So I left. And I make it no farther than the car when he's like, I don't think we should talk to each other anymore. And now I'm apologizing for being late. And now I'm trying to contact him. And now I'm like, where are you? Like, no, like, that's not what I wanted. Like please, like, no. And I end up buying him food and drink and meeting him at the library, and then going back to his place to spend the night. The next part of this video is gonna be my assault. I'm putting my 3rd and final trigger warning here. I will do my best to censor for YouTube, as well as just in general. It's not something every day that you hear somebody go into detail about what they experienced, but I have been just trying to not explain, because I don't have to explain myself to anyone, but just to kind of show that my college path was not linear. It wasn't good at all. But this is the 3rd and final trigger warning. So, so the day of my assault, I'm really tired, right? I'm tired, and I go text him, and I'm like, hey, I just got out of class, but I'm really, really tired. Can I please just take a nap at your place? Like, I'm so tired. And he's like, sure. So I nap. My eyes are closed. I'm trying to go to sleep, and no longer than like 10 minutes, he comes in the room, and he's gets in the bed, and I'm like, okay, and I'm asleep. I don't make any noise or make any sign that I'm awake. And so he starts pulling down my pants, and this is kind of how our sex life was anyway. You know, I was always waking up to him already touching me or already taking my clothes off. It wasn't like it was new. And even if I didn't want to, I was like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. So I finally am like, okay, I'm awake. And that's fine. Sex is going okay, you know, whatever. But then he starts to use his hands, you know, like his fingers. And it was like really rough, you know, like it hurt. I was like, hey, like that hurts. You have to stop. And he doesn't. And so I'm like, well, it hurts. Like, stop. Like, I'm recoiling backwards. Like, and he's just pulling me back closer. Every time I try to back away, he's pulling my legs closer and taking me back to where he is so he can do what he does. And I start to cry because it hurts, you know? Like, it felt like I was being stabbed with knives, like over and over and over again. Like it was, and at this point I'm crying, you know, I'm like, please stop. And I, again, recoil backwards. And he says to me, if you don't come back, I'm going to make it hurt even worse. So I'm sobbing, and I go back to the edge of the bed where he is, and he continues to do what he was doing, and I'm still crying. And then he proceeds to have sex with me, not sex. he proceeds to how do I say this? He proceeds to have sex with me vaginally. I'm still crying. And then he finishes off and he wants to continue penetration from behind as well. Not behind vaginally, you guys know what I mean. And I'm crying still, telling him that it hurts, and he stops and he says, it wasn't that bad. And he says to me, he says to me that he'll come back and finish later. And then he proceeds to leave his apartment for the library, and then I just broke down. I broke down crying. I wrote down everything that happened because I felt like I wasn't sure if I had just been sexually assaulted and R-word. You know, I wasn't sure. And so I messaged my ex-T and I told him what happened, and he said that's assault. And then I texted my other friend M, and I don't remember what she said, but I just know that after I told her about it, I never heard from her again about it. So she never checked up on me afterwards. That was what I told her, and then she had that reaction to that message, and then that was it. And so now I'm like, well, I need to shower. Worst decision, right? But I was trying to protect him. So I showered, and now I don't even want to be around him. Now I feel sick, you know? And so the next night we hang out, and he tells me as we're going to sleep that we shouldn't see each other anymore. And I am literally crying, asking for a reason, asking why. And he doesn't do anything, but his bed was against the wall. He didn't do anything but push my body like into the wall. And I just cried myself to sleep. And the next day I tried to go to work, and I had a breakdown. And I had to tell my parents, and I decided to report it to like the UH Equal Opportunity Services, whoever you go to report something like that. I also went to UHPD. Actually, I don't think I went to UHPD. I think I went to the Equal Opportunity Services and they went to UHPD. I'm not sure. But regardless, I go, and then as I am, going out to my Jay's house that's farther away. She lived in like Cyprus, so I was gonna go stay with her. I wasn't gonna go to class the next day because we had that same class together. So told all my professors what was going on. The people that I was with that I reported it to were telling my professors what was going on. And I'm not even in Cyprus yet. Like, I just got my stuff and he's already texted me saying, hey, like, do you want to study together? And then it starts with, hey, like, did I do something wrong? Or like, hey, please talk to me, da 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 da. And we're advised not to talk to each other, so I don't answer until the next day. So I answer, and I'm like, we really shouldn't. I don't want anything to do with you. And he's like, please just let's just talk. Like, let's just talk in person. So I go to UH campus. It's like nighttime, and I have this recording. I recorded it, and because I wanted to hear him say what he had done, and he danced around it, of course. So the recording was a bunch of bullshit anyway. Except in the recording, you can literally hear how he's gaslighting me. I tell him, like, UHPD, da 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 da, and he knows about that. And then I tell him about the process even more. I'm like, well, they're gonna, talk to you, but then also EOS is gonna talk to you. And he's like, well, who are they? And I was like, well, that's Title IX. He's like, what's Title IX? And I tell him what Title IX is, and he's like, so what's gonna happen to me if I get, in charge and whatever? And I'm like, well, they could suspend you, they could expel you. And at that moment, he started to freak out on me. He was like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is gonna ruin my life. And I was like, your life? I was like, what about my life? And I was like, but now I'm not sure, now I'm not sure if I want to go through with it, And so the whole tone of the conversation changes. What about me? What are you doing to me? You want me to be expelled? I'm like, it's not that. It's just you did something horrible to me, and I shouldn't have to just sit here and take it. Like, it's been a year of constant emotional, sexual abuse and gaslighting. This is the least horrible thing that could happen to you, literally. And I wish I had the balls to say that in the moment. But in the moment I conceded, and I told them that I was gonna fix it. It's like, don't worry, you're not gonna get expelled, I'll fix it. And go back to his place that night. We have sex. And as time goes on, I haven't revoked my statement yet, and he's starting to get irritated with me. He's calling me and he's telling me that I need to change it now, or he could be expelled and something and blah 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 blah. Like, okay. And so now I'm debating if I should even try, so now me trying to revoke my statement makes my accusation look wishy-washy. And so I remember one weekend he said that his girlfriend was coming into town and that he wasn't going to be able to see me at all. And so I was super upset and depressed about that. That wasn't something I was happy to hear. And so with everything that had happened with the assault, and then me trying to fix things, and then him having his girlfriend and she coming, I resorted to self-harm. I started harming myself again. And I was seeing a campus therapist, but the weight of it all just kind of became too much, you know? And so I decide to go through with it, and I decide to cut him off. And I leave him a voicemail about how I don't want anything to do with him and that this is goodbye. Like, I don't want it. The thing about that is that I already told him that I was having issues, you know what I mean? Like, he knew that I was already depressed, and that's important to keep in mind. And so before I know it, he's at my door with some campus residential person, and he's like, come on, we need to take you back to campus. Like, I can't let you stay here by yourself. You're gonna hurt yourself. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna hurt myself. And I low-key thought it was sweet that he came, but I was like, I'm not gonna hurt myself. He's like, please just come to campus with me, please. And I was like, okay, whatever. He was like, he insisted that I was depressed and that I needed help. And like I said, he's like, okay, well, you know, come to campus with me. I go to campus with him. We're in his apartment. He said, we need to go to UHPD about this. And I was like, no, we don't. And I was like, this is not something we need to go to them about. Like, he was like, you're depressed and I think they could help you. And I was like, I don't know how they could help me. I don't see that if I could be helpful. He's like, well, we either go to them or I'm going to call them and bring them here. And I thought to myself, and at this moment, I should have just left. But he had dropped me off, you know what I mean? And I should have just walked home. I should have, you know, right? But I thought, you know what? I don't want to make a scene. I'm just going to go to the UHPD, whatever. I don't want to make a scene. And as soon as we get there, he tells the officer that I'm harming myself and cutting and doing all these things. And I try to tell her, I say, I'm not suicidal. I don't want to die. This is self-harm. This is not me trying to kill myself. You know, this is me just trying to cope. And he tells her over and over again that I've been cutting, I have a history of cutting, and that that I'm literally going to kill myself. And what happens is, you know, she pulls me to the side and she's, you know, asking me like, are you cutting or you suicidal? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I look over and he's talking to another male police officer already. And I don't know about what, just hear them talking. And she spun me around and she put me in handcuffs and she said that I was going to be involuntarily committed. And I was speechless. I was like, what? And I'm looking at him and he turns around, literally turns his back on me and walks outside with the officer, and I yell his name and he just walked away. And so then I was involuntarily committed, and my mom had to work really hard to get me out. That made my statement a lot less concrete, you know? Like, oh, she's crazy. You can't trust what she says. No. And so now the only thing I can do is get him to take some sexual assault class. Now the expectation or the attempt to get him expelled or suspended, that's gone. That's all gone. And so after that, I got out of the hospital and I found out that he had taken a no contact order out against me until one of us graduated from UH, and I didn't understand any of it. I was so confused. I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I just remember my mom dropping me off at my apartment, and yeah, I thought this was gonna happen. The aftermath was so much worse. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even listen to music, bro. And anybody who knows me knows that music is my soul. That's one of my biggest coping mechanisms. And every single song just reminded me of him. I couldn't go outside. I'd be triggered by the weather. And I still do get triggered by the weather. Because it reminds me of, I can remember it all so clearly. You know, there's a lot of traumas that I don't remember in my life, but this one is the one that I'll always remember from start to finish. It was just darkness. Nothing but darkness. I couldn't go outside. I didn't want the sun hitting my skin. I locked myself in my bathroom during the day because it was dark. And once the sun went down, I climbed back in bed. And I did this for almost 2 months. I didn't leave my house. And this would be around my second attempt. And as confused as I was, and we had the no contact order, I just couldn't help myself. You know, I was so confused about how he could do something like this to me. You know, how do you do that to someone you care about? You know, I bought him Post Malone tickets. I tried to get him to talk to me. He accepted the tickets. Didn't talk to me though. I bought him shirts, had them sent to his apartment. He wore those. He probably still does. And I was messaging him some crazy stuff, y'all. Like really inappropriate, crazy stuff because I just wanted a response. I just wanted any response. So I would go from being angry and sending him messages, I hate you, I can't believe you did this to me, I can't believe you're this person, to thank you for setting me free from you, thank you, to please just, we can have sex like how you used to want, we can do whatever you want to. The assault, it wasn't even a thing, it doesn't even have to be a thing. We don't ever have to talk about it again, just please respond to me. And it got to the point where I was hanging out. You know, I wasn't going to class, but I was still hanging outside the lab just so that I could maybe see him and see if he would talk to me. None of that ever happened. So he ended up just having to do that sexual assault course. And I ended up dropping my classes. I tried to go back that spring semester, but I couldn't, because I couldn't deal with seeing him around campus, knowing, you know, we're in the same major. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way I'm going to school. And I tried, and my parents wanted me to try. And, you know, one of my dad's favorite phrases is keep it moving. And so I tried to keep it moving. And I never dealt with it. I went to therapy for a little bit because it was free and I didn't have really good insurance back then, so therapy and medicine weren't really an option, they weren't an option. And so for the past 6 years, that's what I had done up until this past November of 2022. I finally stopped. I stopped keeping it moving because I couldn't anymore. So I just stored it in my vault. I went through it and I needed a job, and so I just tried to keep going. And so the aftermath of this has just been much more than just the assault. I still don't have my degree. I had to take organic chemistry over and over again 3 times because the first 2 times, I couldn't mentally learn that stuff and not think about him. Do you know what it's like to be triggered? Triggered by smells, triggered by sounds, triggered by names, triggered by the weather. Just last week, I had a breakdown because, well, I don't have a breakdown. I try to cry once a week. This has been part of my healing journey, is letting myself feel these emotions because I haven't dealt with them for 6 years. And so everything's kind of coming to the surface. I didn't have any support back then. I had my parents, but wasn't like that's who I wanted to share this information with. I am known to isolate when I get depressed, but I still needed someone, and Jay at that point, she was fed up with me being sad. She was fed up with me being sad and told me that it was my fault. That the assault was my fault. Of course, I made active decisions in my life. Of course I do. And of course I make active choices. But I make those choices with the information that I have at the time. When I met him, I did not know he was going to do this to me. And there are so many points where I say I should have just left, or I should have just done this, or I should have just done that. I should have nothing. I've had to forgive myself for this. But we'll talk about the triggering and what it's like to be triggered and what kind of triggers I have and stuff like that at a different time. But that's my story. I know it was really heavy and I started crying, and I'm sorry about that. But it's not just the assault. It's a year of emotional abuse, mental gaslighting, narcissistic personality, sociopath, racist. And I know that now. I know that that's the reason why he never chose me. And he said it himself in the video, or not the video, in the audio recording I have of when we met and I recorded. He said, "You want to know the real reason why I never gave you a chance?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "It's because you're Black." So that's all for today. Long video, really long and emotional, but it feels good to tell people, you know, and not that I need that external validation, because I can't rely on that. I can't rely on that for closure. Not the validation, but it feels good to not have to keep it all to myself, you know? And if you follow me on Instagram, you know exactly who this is. I have a post about them, and I posted about them before on my story, but there is an actual post about them. Yeah. I know that something has happened over the last weekend. I called some people out. That will be, we'll get into that soon. We'll come into that era of being ghosted and forgotten about. So don't worry, I'll get to it. This all isn't just happening for no reason. This isn't all just me holding a grudge for 6 years. I didn't hold a grudge for 6 years. I didn't do that for 6 years. I've had to convince myself and kept asking myself, why would they do that to me? But again, a video for another day. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you coming, being here with me, watching me cry. It's been hard, and I've just now slowed down enough to process all these traumas. And so, yeah, I want to thank you for being here with me. Like, comment, subscribe if you'd like. Let's hang out again soon.